Hi, and welcome to LB0 Fox India Norwegian Ham Ventures. I'm Morten, LB0 Fox India. And first of all, let me take you about 5 years back in time when I was a new ham. And a fellow ham lent me one of these, an RS-918, which is a Chinese clone of the M0NKA MCHF project. We'll get back to that later and perhaps some ethical discussions around that. But I thought this was a fantastic little thing. It had a waterfall, which my at-home radio didn't have at that time. It was small, it was portable, and I got QSOs on it, even though we were in the bottom of the solar cycle. So ever since then, I've been looking for one. I've been checking Hamfests. I've been scouring the regular Chinese sites, and I've always been a little bit doubtful. But thanks to AliExpress sponsoring this channel, I got one of these to test out. So we're going to take a look at that. And first of all, if you haven't heard about AliExpress before, AliExpress is an online marketplace where you can get pretty much anything. And by anything, I mean pretty much anything. You can get cars, ham radio stuff, clothes, whatever, everything from really bad quality to really high quality and everything in between. And everything from really cheap to really expensive and everywhere in between. And where this radio fits in that category, we're going to take a look at. And if you've been watching my videos, you know that, well, if I get a sponsored item that's not really good, well, I tell you that it's not really good. I even threw away some Bluetooth earplugs in the trash about a year ago. So you know that whatever I tell you is my truthful opinion on this. And first of all, before we go any further, I want to discuss a couple of ethical things about this. Ethical problems, ethical things you got to think about with this radio, because this is a clone of M0NKA's MCHF project, which is an open source kit project. And even though it's open source, it's not up to whoever to clone it and sell it commercially. Actually, the license doesn't allow for commercial resale of the design. And that is an issue. You take the attention away from the developer of the product. You take income away from the developer of the product, because I'm sure that these Chinese manufacturers, well, they don't pay any license fees or anything for these. You can see the same with the USDX family of radios, where same issue applies there when you look at those all over AliExpress, eBay, Amazon, and the similar. So this is not unique to this radio, but this is one of the most cloned designs in the world. So I actually find this a little bit problematic, but I've been going back and forth with myself, and I've decided to take a look at this radio with the couple of ethical concerns in mind. And this brings us on to another topic here, because since this thingy is so well cloned, and there are so many manufacturers actually making this radio, there are some quality control issues. So it's a buyer beware situation. The one I have is not half bad, but you never know what you're gonna get. So you got to look at the seller, see if the seller has a relatively good rating, and if you actually trust what you buy. Because needless to say, there's not going to be any warranties on these radios. That being said, my radio hasn't been bad the couple of weeks I've been testing it, and I'm going to leave an affiliate link down below there. So if you want to take a look at one of these radios, the ethical concerns, with the ethical concerns and everything, you know at least where I got mine. I can't tell you though that you're going to be as lucky as me and get a fully working one, but the one I have is at least working. There are also going to be some discount codes popping up on screen here during the video. So what is the RS-918 here? Well, as I said, it's a Chinese clone of the MCHF project made by M0NKA. And there are different versions of these, and you have a whole lot of different open source firmware that you can flash them with. For example's sake, I'm gonna show you with the firmware that came with the radio, just so you know what you're gonna get out of the box. And speaking about out of the box, Well, this radio does not come calibrated. You have to calibrate the power amplifier stages. You have to calibrate the frequency. So once you get the radio, you need to set off at least a day or two to get this radio up and running. It is not a plug-and-play radio, and we're going to get back to that later when discussing who this radio really is for. So, with no further ado, let's go over to the bench, take a look at what the radio looks like physically with all the buttons, the screen, and everything. And then we're going to test the power output of the radio, the way I have calibrated my PA bias on it, because there are a lot of ways to do this, but I think I followed the instructions relatively good and got mine calibrated almost where I want it. And first of all, let's just take a look at the radio without having it plugged in, so we have enough space to just move it around here. It's not a huge radio. It kind of reminds me a little bit about the ICOM 705 and the Xiegu 6100 and 6200 radios. Also, what you get in the box is a power cable, and you get this little cheap mic with a really cheap click here. But it does work, so I didn't expect more. It actually looks surprisingly like the Xiegu X6100 mic, but it feels a lot cheaper, if that makes any sense to you. Furthermore, if we take a look at the side here, we have a USB port, full-size USB port here for flashing firmware. We got a mini USB of all things for Digimode interface for sound card and cat control. We get a BNC for the antenna. If we take a look at the other side here, we have, and I really hope the camera focuses well here, we have headphones, microphone, line in, line out, accessory port, key port, and power in here. And it takes anywhere from 9 to 15 volts. On the back side, we have a speaker, and we have this little flap to keep it up and standing in an angle. And I really like this. That's one of the things that can actually take me away from liking a radio, is actually this. And we have a little bit of a flap on top here, which I do think is a heatsink. I think this is screwed straightly into a heatsink on the final stages of it. At least this part gets relatively warm when using it, at least with Digimodes. So we got everything hooked up here, antenna, power, and the mic. We're not going to use the mic, at least not now, but I'm going to turn it on. And you can see the display here. We're gonna get away from there's a ready contest going on this weekend. And I'm just gonna change a couple of things here. I'm gonna change it to mic input. And I'm gonna set the filter to SSB width here. So let's just flip around the 20 meter band here and see what we can find. 20 was good this morning. It doesn't look as good now, actually. Get a station here. Let's see if we can pick up anything. So I'm going to just turn the volume down, and we're going to take a look at the physical aspects of the radio. We have 3 knobs here. They're encoders. One for the volume settings, and you can press that and it changes to compressor. All these have different properties when you press them. I'm not going to go into deep dive. There are channels that goes into deep dive on this radio and all the functionality. I'm just going to give you an overview. You have a couple of keys here, a couple of buttons here for mode, DSP functions, power amplifier, which where you select the output power, and bandwidth. You have some soft keys here for different functions. You have a big, actually really nice VFO wheel. You can set the step size here either with these buttons or just pressing the encoder for the VFO. And you do have a touch screen. The touch screen functionality, not really that good. It really shows that it's an aging design. And then you have the menu. Menu is, well, it's complicated. But I'm going to show you, because we have talked a little bit about calibrating this radio. So we're going to go down to the PA configuration settings and just show you here. And here are all the things you have to take into consideration with the PA tuning. You have to do power adjust on every band, set the PA bias, and it's a long process, and it takes a while, and you have to configure for both the internal meter and then an external meter, just to know that the internal meter is actually halfway correct. And it's, let's put it this way, it's halfway correct on mine. And that's basically the physical overview of this radio. I'm guessing this is about 20 centimeters wide, not half bad, fits easily into a backpack. And how much power does this radio deliver? Well, as I said, it depends on the calibration. Mine deliver on the 5 watt settings after calibration close to 5 watts, a little bit more on some bands, a little bit lower on other bands, but relatively close to 5 watts on most of the bands. It's claimed to be an up to 15 watt radio, but in order to get that, I think you got to push the final stages of this radio really hard, and I don't trust the quality of this radio enough to do that. So I've calibrated it for 5 watts and then calibrated the max power setting for as close to 10 watts as I could get on the different stages. But let's put it on the meter and see where we end up on the different bands. And first of all, I'm just going to show you the different power settings here. So you got a feeling. We're only going to test it on 2 settings. We have 5 watts, as you can see up here now. Hopefully you can see it. Then we have, that was the wrong button. Then we have 2 watts, 1 watt, half a watt, and full power. What we're going to do, we're going to test for 5 watts and full power, because those are the 2 that are calibrated, and the rest of them are just a function of that. So we're on 5 watts, we're on 160 meters. Just let's move a little bit higher up in the band here. I'm going to press the tune button here, and you can see the power meter up here. And this power meter is, of course, hooked up to a dummy load. So I'm going to press the tune button here now, and we're going to see how much power it is on 5 watts on 160 meters here. 5 watts almost exactly on the 5 watt settings on 160. Let's turn the power up here. Turn it up to full power and press the tune button. And on full power on 160, it's 7.3 watts. Now for 80, 5 watts, about 6 watts on the 5 watt settings. That's as good as I could get it on 80 meters. And then switch it over to the full power settings on 80. And on full power on 80 meters, we have 7.5 watts. On 60 meters, let's change the PA settings here to 5 watts. Press the tune button. 5.5-ish watts, and on full power we have 7.5 watts. Now to 40 meter, 5 watts, 5.5 watts, and let's change it to full, and 8 watts on full power. 30 meters on 30 meters on 5 watt is 5.3-ish watts. And on full power, it's 7.2 watts. 20 meters, 5 watt setting is 5.3 watts. And on full power, 7 watts. 17 meters, 5 watt setting, 5.3 watts. And for full power, we have 7.7 watts. 15 meters for 5 watts. We have 4.9, 4.8, 4.9 watts. And on full power, we have 7.8 watts. Let's go ahead and move up to 12. And on 12 meters, let's put it on 5 watts. We have 5 watts almost to the almost exactly 5 watts. And on the full power setting, we have 7.5 watts. And finally, let's do 10 meters. See how it performs in 10. Let's go down to 5 watts. 5 watts is 4.7 watts. And full power is almost 8 watts. 8 watts exactly here, you can see. So you can see that this is not a 15-watt radio as advertised. I didn't expect it. This is a QRP radio. I could probably run the final stages a lot harder on this and get the advertised 15 watts. Actually, I know I can, but I don't trust the radio and the files enough to do that. And then it's time to discuss who this radio is for. And I got a couple of notes here, so that's why I look down once in a while. But let's start with who this radio is not for. Well, this is not for you who just got licensed, and if you're a new ham, you've never calibrated radio, you have no idea what the different menu settings are. I can tell you straight away that that's only going to leave you frustrated and probably going to put the radio in a drawer and not take it up again. But to turn it around, who this radio is for. And first of all, thinking about the ethical concerns with this design being copied, you have to have a little bit of a relaxed mindset about intellectual property, to put it mildly. If you do, it's a fun radio. I like this radio. It's fun to play with, but it's more of a project than a daily driver. You can flash it with different firmware. You can calibrate it almost exactly how you want it. And you can do pretty much everything with it. In addition to that, as I showed in the walkthrough of the radio, it's got a USB port. So it's got a built-in sound card, which makes it excellent for those days where sideband just doesn't cut it portable. I have to admit, I like this radio. And I probably would have liked it with the original M0NKA design as well. But I am no builder. And that's why I wanted one that was readily built. But, well, there's a little bit of a knot in my stomach every time I take it out because of the ethical concerns regarding intellectual property on this radio. I've been taking this radio out for a couple of POTAs. I even did one POTA where band conditions were really bad, and I challenged myself with a hamstick on top of the car, and I actually managed to do the POTA activation with it. That being said, I got about 7 on sideband and I had to get the last 3 on digimodes, but with the built-in sound card and cat control, that went really, really fast. So it works for a POTA. And then, do I recommend this radio? Well, it's a fun radio, I gotta tell you that. But you gotta keep those ethical concerns in mind when doing that. So I'm gonna leave it up to you. I like this radio. If you're an experienced ham, you're gonna have a lot of fun with this radio. But keep in mind that this is not an original Chinese design, and it's actually an open source project. And with that, thank you guys for watching this channel. If you watched this far and you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. If you watched this far and didn't like the video, give it a thumbs down. Leave a comment down below about what you think about this radio. Do you have one? Have you wanted one? Whatever you have to say about the video, leave a comment down below that. Also, do think about subscribing. That shows me that you enjoy my content and helps me get further out in the YouTube algorithm. And I also have memberships down below because running a YouTube channel is not cheap. All the money I get from the memberships and a whole lot more goes straight back into running this channel. So I think that's it for now. See you down the bands. See you in my next video. 73, my friends.